Oh, it's that time for you to turn your great idea into a reality with guess who? Squarespace. They make it easier than ever to launch your passion project, whether you're showcasing your work or trying to sell products of any kind. They have beautiful templates and the ability to customize just about anything so you can easily make a beautiful website for yourself, by yourself. But if you get stuck, they have 24/7 award-winning customer support that is there to help. So head to squarespace.com/grace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code GRACE to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Make that dream a reality. Get in there.
Not too deep.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Not Too Deep. I'm your host, Grace Helbig. Very exciting episode. Malcolm Barrett is with us today. He's an actor. He's a rapper. He's a poet. He's a friend of the Valley folk. You might know him as Rufus from NBC's Timeless. You might know him on one of Steve Zaragoza's many projects. You might know him as the artistic director of the Ammo Theater here in Los Angeles. Either way, he's an amazingly cool guy. I'm excited for you to get to know him if you don't know him. And we talk about all kinds of things. We talk about growing up in Brooklyn, moving to Los Angeles, becoming and getting in the world of poetry, some of the most quote unquote interesting experimental theater he's seen that includes chewed up gum and heads in water. It's very artistic and fascinating. So enjoy this episode of Not Too Deep with Malcolm Barrett. Want to do some vocal warm-ups, some zip zap zop? It's already so wildly impressive to me. I'm
Basic
just like
theater school.
I know. Okay. Well, that do you actually do verbal warm-ups? Verbal, the rapper? Do you do audible warm-ups? Do you do vocal warm-ups or anything like that before you perform?
I do during. Oh, good. There's a fighter jet above.
Perfect. What set are you on?
Good. Yeah. I'm on the set of Air Force One.
Yeah, great.
So it's a reboot. But very popular right now. No, I don't really do vocal. Well, that's not completely true. I do vocal warm-ups. More in theater, but not a lot. And depending on like what the thing is that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like I play a lot of nerds, so there's like a lot of like.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, so like if I'm really high, I'll do vocal warm-ups just because it's like it's easier. Because when you get high, then your mouth gets all dry and whatever, and so like, you want to feel comfortable over enunciating without feeling weird. So like that's my advice to every young.
That's great. I was there. That checks off the question of what kind of advice you have for young performers looking to make it.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So you're in theater, you're in traditional acting, you're in music, you're in arts. This is what I ask for a lot of guests that are kind of like hybrid performers. Mm-hmm. What is your deal? Like, how do you describe yourself to someone that's never met you that wants to know what you do?
What is my deal? I know
it's a little off-putting, but I'm always curious as to how people.
I don't. I feel you have enough good favor that I don't. Nothing's that off-putting. You know what I mean?
Oh, good.
Yeah, I guess. So look, if I was in New York, I'd comfortably say I was an artist, but people don't really use that term in LA. Like it's probably the first term I heard in the industry that never got used again.
Wow.
Yeah, like because they don't say artist too much when you're like in LA. Like LA, like you're an actor or you're trying to get a paycheck. Like everything's paycheck related, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You know, like I hate to be all like, whoa, I'm a fucking artist inside. But like, you know, that's what New York is. Like, right? Like all these people, they're visual artists, painters, they're the teachers, they're whatever they do, and they all consider them artists for the most part. So for me, when I was trying to find my voice, it just came out in whatever way it happened. You know, I grew up on hip hop, so I was rapping and freestyling when I was in high school and junior high and having battles and things like that.
And you grew up in Brooklyn, right? In New York.
Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, Biggie Small stomping ground, literally near Jay-Z, across from Marcy Projects.
Wow.
Yeah. So I lived in all the places that Black folks rap about, and all the places white people drove through and now live. That's where
Yeah.
that's where I'm from. Um, so,
How
so yeah, I was heavy into freestyling and rapping, and then when I got to college, it became poetry at that New Eurekan Poetry Cafe, and so I was a
Oh,
national
wow.
slam poet, but I was writing stories since I was like in the first grade. So to me,
Okay, so
yes.
I'm curious as to what caught your eye with poetry, because that seems like a very niche kind of world to enter as like a young artist. Like, what was it about that?
Well, my mom wrote poetry.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. My mom wrote poetry. It was always an interest. For me, it never seemed that wild a thing. I
Okay.
will say that making it a vocation was an eye-opening thing, because
Yeah.
once I started going to NYU, then I started going to the Lower East Side, which brought me to the
Mm,
Eureka Poetry Cafe. And
cool.
so that's where I started doing it. But then as I became a regular and was winning competitions and joined the team.
Mm,
I think the first time I joined the team, I was at Ainsley Burroughs, and he had all his chat books. We were roommates,
yeah.
we were touring, and he had these chat books, and I was like, "Oh, you guys are making money off this?" Because keep in mind, I was doing it before Def Poetry Jam came. Like,
Wow. Yeah,
yeah.
this is a world I don't know anything about. So when you say you made the team, what does that mean exactly?
So there are national competitions for slam poetry.
Right. Okay.
And so I was on the New Eurekan national team in 2001.
Cool.
And then so you get sent to Seattle where the nationals happen. I literally got a poetic license with my name on it.
Oh,
Um,
that's so fun.
yeah, so that was my work. That was my world for a while, for a couple
Wow.
of years. Was that and hip hop? I was putting out a poetry album and trying to work on chapbooks, but then the acting thing took the music thing. I went to LA, and so it just became a different world for me. Um,
Wow.
yeah, I probably moved to LA right before Def Poetry Jam started, because I would have loved to have done that, and I was just outside of that circle as it started burgeoning.
Wow. So what brought you out to Los Angeles?
What brought me out to Los Angeles was a show called Luis, uh,
Okay.
with, with Luis Guzman, so the guy who wasn't whipping his penis out. I'm sure
Good
he whips it out.
clarification.
Yeah, I'm sure he whips it out on occasion, like you have to at some point.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of penile.
Mm.
But
I'm learning
yeah,
so much, and we're 5 minutes into this.
I try to be as informative as I can. I don't know how long this thing's gonna last. I am is the flat curve. Um, so I did a show called Luis with Luis Guzman. He
Mm.
pronounces it in different ways. But I was in school at the time,
Mhm.
but my experience in college was always somewhere between me actually doing the things that we're doing, like trying to learn and take all these things, and actually working outside of school. Like I was acting outside of school at the same
Oh, yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, but Louis was the one that made me leave school because I got the pilot and it shot in LA, so
Mhm.
I had to move to LA.
Wow. That's so I mean, and that's also so you're a young man that's trying to juggle all of this at the same time.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. So did you finish school and then like move out to Los Angeles completely or
No, but I went for 4 years.
okay. So it's
I don't
still
know.
open-ended.
Yeah, I don't know how many of those years counted, to be honest.
Okay.
I left school every second semester, and I don't think I completed a full year until my third year or whatever.
Okay.
Because the second semester of college, I was on tour with Wit. Uh,
Oh, wow.
yeah. So I was gone for 6 months, came back. Then the scholarship ran out of money. I left. Then came back, was auditing classes. Then I was there for like a year and a half. Then I got the Louis show, and then I just left.
Wow. So technically there's still an opportunity for you to graduate at some point.
There is. Well, what's funny is I would go back, and I would just be like, I'd be there because I just had friends there and what
Yeah.
else, and so I'd be in the school, and inevitably there'd be somebody in some office. They'd be like, I remember somebody, I don't know what her job was, but she was like, "Are you Malcolm Barrett?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." She's like, "Hey, so you've left the school, but you didn't fill out any of the stuff to say like, hey, like for matriculation or for leaving or an official
Uh,
leave. Like you haven't done any of that." She was like, would you mind just coming into my office for a second and just filling that out? And I was like,
Uh-huh.
oh, hey, look, the reason I left school is because I don't like paperwork. No.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a no. Also, I thought you were gonna say that she recognized you like from a performance or something.
Oh,
It was
no.
like, "Are you Malcolm? I have paperwork for you."
Yeah.
So,
No.
so you come out to Los Angeles, and were you doing theater when you landed here, or trying to do theater at the same time as the whole acting world?
Yeah, I have a theater company now that I'm
I know.
co-artistic.
Yeah, it's Ammo.
Yeah, Ammo Theater. Yeah.
Yeah, tell us about that. How did that come about?
Well, we've existed for about 5 years now. So when I
Okay.
first got here, I was co-artistic director with a different theater company called Real Theater Works,
Mhm.
founded by a bunch of NYU friends of mine. And then, it dispersed at some point. We were there for years, very hard to keep it up while I was here. And then about 5 years ago, a separate group of friends, some the same NYU folks, came together and we founded this new theater company called Ammo Theater.
Mhm.
And in a lot of ways, it's similar to the last one I had. For good or for worse, the objectives I've had with both of these companies were to have a multi-ethnic company with women and people of color in the forefront and in
Mhm.
decision-making positions and art from underrepresented communities. And to be honest, the goal of this company didn't change from the goal I had for my company in 2003,
Cool.
which was to give more opportunities to underrepresented voices and people of color.
Yeah.
And, for good or bad, it's still a relevant goal.
Yeah. No, it seems like, because I'm very curious how the pandemic and quarantine has affected the works and like the theater as a whole.
Yeah, I mean it's a devastating process, right? Because
Yeah.
theater is not the best business model. Uh,
Oh, yeah. I feel like that's why I'm like, wow, you're the artistic director of a nonprofit theater. Like, that still is a thing you can do. That's wild. Like, I've existed on the internet for the last decade. But I came up through the People's Improv Theater in New York. And so, like, it seems like a very ancient sort of art form now that I'm like impressed that you guys are going and seem to be like adapting to what the world is throwing at you right now.
yeah, I mean it's interesting, right? Because in LA, improv thrives, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know how much it thrives because of like individual improv companies. I feel like a lot of it comes out of the major companies that are there,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
those then get pipelined into television.
Yeah.
Right? So there really is, even when you're struggling as say an improv or whatever performer, there seems like there's a real big goal there.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a theater actor doing stuff, the biggest goal is Broadway, and you're still
Right.
getting paid shitty.
Right. Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
It's still a shitty pay. So
So you're
it's just a
really
bit.
doing it for your art. Like, you're really in it to express yourself.
Well, especially if you've tasted where me and you are going, like you're talking about being in on the internet, and it's like
Yeah.
there is a much better business model to be a talented person on the internet than there is to be
Mhm.
a talented person in theater.
Yeah.
Simply because of ad space. You know,
Yeah.
and simply because they're like people aren't throwing ad space at you to do a play.
Right.
But we adapted, right? Like
Mhm.
theater has never been the major moneymaker that film and TV has been.
Mhm.
But it always adapts, and the audience has remained hungry for it since civilization began. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's still happening. I meet with about so I'm one of three ADs with Julie Bersani and Kim Hamilton, and we meet every Tuesday with about 50 other smaller theater artistic directors to discuss the sort of future and directives that we can do. And
Very
what a lot of us are
interesting.
doing, yeah, what a lot of us are doing is virtual shows. I mean,
Mhm.
we're trying to do the Milan model. You know what I mean? Here's the thing,
Okay.
like, people can't make it out anyway, so it's just like, please just pay us $50 to do some theater. You can watch it
Yeah.
from your house.
Yeah.
Um, so we do a lot of that. Like we every second Tuesday, I feel like I'm getting this wrong.
Mhm.
Or first Tuesday, we do something called Voices of Ammo. You can go to ammunitiontheater.com and it'll tell you more of the schedule of things. And
Cool.
actually, that's a reminder to myself. Um, But once a month we do Voices of Ammo, and it's basically a talent show. Since a big part of what we do is giving voices to others, we have every week hosted by one of our Ammo members. We do a talent show with about 5 different people from all walks of life, and it usually winds up representing just all walks of community, trans, queer, just people of color, and it's things from poetry to monologues to dancing. Our very first one, we had a dancer.
Cool.
And then in between it, we have a host. And so we've also collaborated with a lot of theaters, with Sacred Fools, with IAMA, to put on shows. We did Pass the Mic, where we'll do sort of 10-minute new works, and then curated by members of our company, and we find that, you know, I've done a thing with Play Per View, right? They've been one of the people in the forefront of producing work via Zoom, essentially.
Okay.
And it's donation based, and so we've done our best to sort of revamp that, because we know how easily people get Zoom fatigue.
Yes. Yeah. But so this talent show that you do, people can join in and watch via Zoom.
They can watch, well, the talent show they watch on our Instagram, Ammunition Theater Instagram.
Cool.
And so that's a lot of what we're having to do is produce stuff that we then put on our Instagram and our website and on YouTube, where it can live and people see it. So what we try and do is always still combine the live aspect. Because that's what people love about theater. They love this is happening in the moment, that someone could fuck up. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like watching sports. Like it's hard watching sports the day after.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
100%. It's like going to see NASCAR in a way. They want to see the bobbles, the mistakes, the flubs, all of it.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because you're an AD in a theater company. You've probably seen some crazy shit on stage. Does anything stand out to you as like the wildest, like experimental theater piece you've seen, or like silliest? Because I mean, I've seen butter dance, the woman that dances on the butter in the theater in the round and like falls down constantly. And I think the internet like redid that with a song under it with Adele.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah.
That's like my association. I'm like, that's what all theater must be.
That's hilarious. You know, theater's funny, right? The craziest shit I've seen. I mean, there was a show called Puppetry of the Penis.
I've heard of this. Never seen it, but I've heard of it.
I never saw it, but it was in New York when I was there. I mean, Blue Man Group was the craziest thing I had seen at the time.
Yeah.
Right? But keep in mind, I went to theater school.
Right.
So I saw a lot of crazy shit.
I bet.
You know what I mean? I've seen, like, speaking of that butter woman, I saw an artist who was doing this character, right? We would have these things called create your own works. Particular class, it led up to like a 10-minute solo performance. And she had various objects on the stage, and she was sort of putting around in this vocalized character, like not necessarily a person, just sort of an almost cartoon-esque character. And at some point, she chews an entire wad of gum.
Okay.
Big, spits it into a pool of water, and then just puts her face in it. Smashes her face in it. And the whole class is like trying to sit here and be thoughtful and listen. And I burst the fuck out laughing.
Okay.
I was like, what the fuck is this? What is that? Because in my mind, here's the thing, right? We take this shit too seriously. She just spit gum out and put her face in it. We're not supposed to laugh at that.
Right.
We're not supposed to have a reaction to that. Then what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah, 100%. You know what I mean? I don't know
what her goal was, but it got a reaction out of me.
Yeah, there's probably some very profound symbolism somewhere in this piece, but the
100%.
reality is Yeah,
Yeah.
she just bobbed for her own gum in a
She
bowl
just
of water.
she's like bobbing for apples with her own gum. And so,
Oh, I
you know,
love
and
art.
yeah, art, man. And that's the thing. It's like you don't know her intention. She might not have wanted
Right.
everyone to be quiet. She was probably trying to evoke a reaction from this
Sure.
fucking stalwart crowd. I don't even know if I'm using the word stalwart, but it felt good.
Feels right.
Correct.
Okay, that makes me feel good because I do have a deep respect for theater. It's a world that I think is truly magical, very artistic, but I do think occasionally it can take itself too seriously. So
Yeah.
I like being able to find the lol worthy moments within all of that.
Yeah.
Um
Did you say lol worthy?
lol worthy. Yeah.
Wow. Aren't we
I
there?
know. I know. God, I've just been existing inside my home on the
Wow.
internet
My
like a
my
crazy
girl
person.
my girl got annoyed because I've been doing my own started my own podcast thing, and
Yeah.
when I
Tell us
write
about this.
I will. When I write, I put ep, like I'll do ep 6 or ep
Yeah.
5 or whatever. So I was talking to her and I was like, "Hey, you want to watch an ep of Doom Patrol?" And she was like, "An ep?" I was
It's the biz lingo. That's how you gotta
like,
talk.
"Huh?"
Yeah, so you've started your own was live with Malcolm?
Yeah, it's
Going
it's
live
called,
with Malcolm.
yes, you did your research.
I've got some notes.
You've got notes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm learning so much as an interviewer from you. Yeah, it's going live with Malcolm with Malcolm. It's essentially an entertainment talk show, but it's also just an excuse to like talk freely with artists I know.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll go from talking about current events and social justice to personal experience as entertainers to silly games that I make up that the guest has no idea about that I usually
That's
make
great.
up as we're talking.
Perfect.
So there's like 3 or 4 segments and none of them are played.
Great.
And so it started twofold, right? It started sort of when the lockdown happened, and all the people who are entertainers in a lockdown, like it's been hard, right? Like for actors and musicians, because we
Yeah.
can't perform outside, we can't tour, right? At the same time, Black Lives Matter was happening, and I'm trying to find my voice in all of this because I'm sitting in
Right.
my house going fucking nuts,
Yeah.
So it started as a way of me wanting to talk with artists. I started with my boy Brandon, who I have a band with, Verbal and Icarus, and then with
Mm-hmm.
Marquis Richardson, who's in Antebellum and Dear White People.
Cool.
And the reason I went with them first is it wasn't even to necessarily talk about society as much as it was about, okay, here's a good friend of mine who I know that we can talk about super serious stuff or
Mm-hmm.
just bullshit or clown about anything. I knew that these first 2 people are people I could go anywhere with.
Yeah, it's a safe, respectful conversation.
Yeah, but also people who don't give a fuck. Like Marquis doesn't give a fuck. And it wasn't any, I think there were a lot of people that were quiet when things first started because they were afraid of what to say.
Yeah.
So I wanted people who weren't afraid of what they would say, and also who weren't beholden to having to speak about the moment, but who are always powerful in their voice and who are always share that. And so that's a lot of who my guests are. It's been Phil Lamar and Ahmed Best and Yvette Nicole Brown. It's been people.
It's crazy.
Well,
Those are great people. And I think it's really cool to see people that you normally see in a very edited, curated space be very raw and unedited and very human with you.
Yeah. I mean, that was the goal. I mean, here's the thing. We'll talk about Black Lives Matter, but I'll open the show drinking in a bat cowl and a Dragon Ball. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's
great.
I think the goal of it was to show that like we're all a million different things and we're all trying to figure things out, and like let's not be afraid.
I think that's really helpful. I know for myself in quarantine, obviously the creative brain contained can go crazy a lot of times. And so I think it's really nice to watch people kind of harness that crazy and like redirect it into something like that and like express themselves, because we're all unraveling a little bit in all of our own unique ways. And so I think it's very helpful to watch other people unravel for good and not for bad. So this is something that people can they can watch the episodes on your YouTube channel. And that, are you still producing new episodes?
Yeah, every Tuesday
Cool.
every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on my IG, which is
Nice.
Verbal Be Rapping. I have a new guest. We took a hiatus because I made a promise to myself to do 10 episodes and do a reevaluation.
Okay.
So they're all available on my Instagram, and then I set up a separate Instagram, Live with Malcolm, where I have highlighted sections of the interviews and promos. So I usually wind up cutting like funny promos using sections of it for like 2 minutes.
Great.
So that's where all of that goes. And then I put them on my YouTube, and I'm on YouTube now. And so now, because of the consistency of that, I'm building more of an audience. I used to didn't give a fuck because I was an actor, and so what the fuck do I care?
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, I want to learn all about your relationship with social media. So we'll be right back with more Not Too Deep.
Not too deep. With Grace Helbig.
All of those good dreams you're having are about to become great realities if you use some Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easier than ever to launch your passion project, and I'm sure you've got at least one or two rattling around in your brain cave over the last couple months. If you're trying to start a new business, are you trying to showcase some work? Do you want to publish some content or sell products of any kind or more? Squarespace is the tool for you. They have beautiful templates created by world-class designers and the ability to customize just about anything with a few clicks, so you can easily make a beautiful website all by yourself. They also have powerful e-commerce functionality that lets you sell anything online and analytics to help you grow your site in real time, and everything is optimized for mobile right out of the box. There's nothing to patch or upgrade ever, and buying domains is super simple, but you can get the help you need with their 24/7 award-winning customer support. Squarespace empowers millions of people, designers, lawyers, artists, gamers, restaurants, gyms. They help them turn great ideas into something real, and you can do that too by going to squarespace.com/grace for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code GRACE, GRACE, to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/grace. Offer code GRACE. Okay, we're back in with Malcolm. Malcolm, when I met you through how most people meet, through the Valley folk. And so everyone that I have met through that world, I just kind of especially through Steve Zaragoza, I just sort of automatically assume that you're also a like gamer, nerd, internet person. Yeah. And then finding out that like, no, you're a theater TV actor. I was like, oh, so what is the connection? How did you meet Steve or Valley Folk? How did that meet cute happen?
That's so funny. I assume the same thing about everyone there. I mean, yeah. I am all those things. That's just not how I make my money.
Right. Yeah. I know, because I feel like I've met so many people just like in that world, and I just assume it's all source fed sort of people.
Yeah. I assume everyone's an internet star. Like,
yeah.
Everyone that I see, I'm just in awe. I'm like, how did you do that? Like,
yeah.
But so the way that I met. So the way I know all those people is through Steve Zaragoza. And the way I met Steve Zaragoza was me and him met doing a show called Nerd Court, which was originally written by Gary Whitta, who's written Star Wars shit, Abomination. He now has a show Animal Crossing. He doesn't have the show Animal Crossing, but he has a talk show on Animal Crossing. And he's had Oh yeah, it's very popular. I can't believe you're not in the know.
Wait, he has a show in the game?
He has a show in the game. He has huge guests on, like musical guests and all these people. And he's gonna have me on.
Yeah. That's so, I didn't even know you could do that. Now my gears are spinning into all different directions.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, check it out after this. He's had I feel like he's had Sting on or some shit like that. It's
Jesus.
insane. but yeah, so he wrote something called Nerd Court, right? And so Nerd
Okay.
Court was a show in affiliation with Skybound, who does Walking
Mhm.
Dead and all sorts of nerd events.
Right.
And so that whole world wound up bringing all these people together because it brought Gary Whitta from Star Wars. It brought Steve Zaragoza, who's big in the I don't know what the fuck Steve does.
I know he's an
and,
anomaly. He's got
yeah,
his own world.
yeah. So Nerd Court was a show where we judged nerd issues. So it'd be like,
Okay.
who's the better superhero, Batman or Superman? Who's the better video game icon, Mario or Sonic? Who's the best Doctor Who? And so it was almost done like a sort of Judge Wapner People's Court thing.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. And so he was like, you know how there's always the guy outside of People's Court that's like, it looks as though we're doing. So Steve was that.
Oh, that's great. He's giving the play-by-play. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I was the judge.
Oh, great.
Yeah, and it was a great show because it was the defendants and you know the opposing sides. It was always like it was either writer, actors, comedians, or internet people, and the internet people was touch and go. Like it was, it was hilarious because it was people who'd never done a character or done a thing outside of like controlling their own edit.
Yeah. It is really a Pandora's box of what kind of personality type you're going to get outside of their own comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how I met Megan and Gabby. And honestly, all of them were really great people. And I feel like I've worked with literally everybody from that show since. In all honesty, I've stayed in contact or worked with everybody. But that's how we met. Like we super got along during it. And it was a heavy improvised show too. Like speaking about having like, so my background is theater, improv, all of that. And then we'd have writers and then we'd have internet folks. I don't know what category. This is like the BIPOC letter. You know how when white folks are trying to figure out what to call black people? This is me. Nerds. I'm like, nerd American? Are you an influencer American?
Yeah, it's perfect.
So it literally, every once in a while, there would be a crash and burn. And I would literally just go to the producer. I remember one particular one, like we had wrapped up the case because there was like we had a loose form and a loose script.
Sure.
Basically done. And I remember going to the producer somewhere during a break and going, do we have enough for a show? And he was like, no. And I was like, okay, right. time to start doing this stuff. You know what I mean? Time to start doing the Malcolm, baby.
Let's really stretch it out. It out.
So that's how we got cool. And then we stayed cool. And I wound up doing his movie that I think they produced, Reunion, with Martin Starr and Bree.
Cool.
And a guy whose name I'm forgetting because I haven't really chilled with him since, but he was great.
Sounds great. He sounds lovely. That's super cool. And so that kind of got you introduced to like the internet world of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's very interesting. You also said in the beginning that you've been cast as a nerd a lot, but it seems like it's kind of in your DNA that's the kind of stuff that you are naturally interested in off screen as much as on screen. You've been to Comic-Con how many times?
3.
Okay. What's your Comic-Con experience? Because you've been for various things and I've only been to Comic-Con once and it's wild.
Can I tell you, in 3 years, I lived the lifespan of what out of Comic-Con. Like, you know, and by complete coincidence, friggin' I was there initially either 3 or 4 times, but I was there the very first time I went was a gift from my girlfriend at the time.
Oh, nice.
And I went as a fan and it was the best thing in the world. And I saw so much things. And I think I was doing a movie with Kerry Washington at the time. And so she was there promoting Django. So, you know, I think I texted her to get in the room, you know what I mean? Because I still hadn't had anything that like got me automatically into places.
Yeah.
So like, I was like, Kerry, how do I get in? She was like, you can do this. I was like, yay! I got to see that panel and everything like that. And I saw really cool shit and I got to be there as a fan.
Mm-hmm.
The very next year, the year after that, it was probably the year after, I did Timeless. And so
Right.
that is how I got invited to Comic-Con. And that was the
That must have been
craziest
insane.
nerdgasm. My face was
Oh.
on billboards and buses. Do you know what I mean? At this place that I was like
Yeah.
so happy to once just attend, you know? I
Yeah. And
was
then all of a sudden, I mean,
there.
because for people that haven't been to Comic-Con, Comic-Con feels like it's its own planet. There's just like hotels wrapped in advertisements, buses wrapped in advertisements, like flash mobs of advertisements. It's kind of like Idiocracy in a way, a little bit. But and so I can't imagine that just a year later, all of a sudden you're going back to this place and your face is plastered on things.
My face is plastered. You know, by then I know a couple nerd folks, so I'm going to events.
Yeah.
We had our own ride. You know, like it was
the luxury of it all.
It was crazy. I'd never been in that position. And we had the panels. And then on top of that, so afterwards, I'm like the only one who wanted to like walk the floor afterwards because I'm a huge fan.
Oh, which is for someone that's faces everywhere, that's like a very dangerous activity.
Yes, it was very different. But my face was everywhere, but people didn't know who I was, right?
Oh, okay. Because had the show come out yet at that point?
It hadn't come out yet.
Oh, okay.
So it's plastered everywhere, and people don't know me, and also people don't automatically think that they're standing next to the guy that's on the poster.
Sure. Yeah.
They're
like, great cosplay.
Yeah. But what's great is like, so there's an Instagram. One of my earliest Instagrams is me online. To the Gravitron, the timeless Gravitron, standing in front of my face.
Oh my God!
Next to, in line with other people, right? And like literally everyone's on their phone because that's the planet we're in. And I'm like, woo! And there's this guy who's here, and I'm like, you excited to get on the ride? He's like, yeah. I'm like, it's pretty cool, huh? The show, timeless. He's like, because he gets no idea who I am at all.
Oh, that's amazing.
Like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? You don't fucking register.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that's so nuts. Did you have any like fanboy moments? I'm sure down at Comic-Con. Did you cross paths with anyone that like blew your mind?
Yes. Oh, wait. I got to tell you the end of this story. Hold on.
Okay. Yeah.
So after we do our panel, I'm the only one who wants to go out, and they're like, "Do you want security?" And I was like, "What?" They were like, "You're on the floor. We usually." I was like, "I'm not famous like that." He's like, and the guy or the guy, and the guy, there's something where he goes, "You know, we can sit." I was like, "What would that look like?" He was like, "It'd be we get 2 guards for you while you walk there." It was like, he was like, and then we can get you a mask as well, you know, so you can wear a mask when you're going on. You know, everyone, like you said, like if you don't know Comic-Con, everyone wears masks, and sometimes there'll be famous people who have things there who just wear masks while they're on the floor.
Yeah, I've seen the photos of Bryan Cranston like wearing a mask of his.
Was just like a Power Ranger. So he was like, "Do you want to wear a mask?" And I said, "Hey, if I wear a mask, it's going to defeat the whole purpose of me walking around with security guards."
That's very true. Yeah.
I was like,
no, give me this. I want to see people's faces when I live out this fantasy now.
And it was fucking awesome. And then I ran into fucking Steve and Mike. I was like, "Where are you guys at? I'm gonna get you." And they're like, "Okay." And we go, and it's just, they're like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I'm like, "Yeah, I got security guards now, man."
Oh, that's so fun.
But my biggest, so it's a weird, the fanboy moment is weird because it's like, I work with a lot of these people, right?
Right.
But a lot of them are like, I watch a lot of this comic shit. Like the craziest shit for me is I ran into the Defenders. Like we were just like going through, like it's one of those things where we're both going through actor sort of elevators.
Yeah.
And they knew who I was. And it was like the craziest. Or Luke Cage did. Luke Cage, because all the brothers know who we are. So like I took a picture. It was, and I knew Kristen Ritter because we did a TV show together. So it was like me, fucking Iron Fist, Daredevil, and then Luke Cage and shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, cool.
My people at the time got that. So I was I was going nuts, man. I mean, I'm fanboying each and every time I go to Comic-Con. Like for
It's
every,
nuts.
any Batmobile I see, any Comic-Con footage I can see. I was there when Zack Snyder had released the shit for Batman versus Superman, which I think was before I was there at Comic-Con. And then the most recent Comic-Con was great because it was like I got to go to all the parties because Timeless and Preacher were happening because Timeless was coming back as either a movie or second season, and Preacher I just joined at the same time.
Cool.
So I actually got to go to a bunch of like little things and was on the panel with them, and then so it was. And then after that, the very last one, I went with my Blurred crew, a bunch of black nerds who were all in the industry and write for
that's great.
TV shows and are people at wherever the fuck they're at. That I'm not gonna say.
Yeah.
But we went as people. Like I went just as guys going on a thing or friends going on a thing.
Yeah.
And a couple of them had panels, and I didn't necessarily even have panels, but I was like there for the parties. Oh, I was there with the boys. There we go.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, yeah. The season 2 is coming out September, right?
Yeah. And I was like begging Kripke, who's the writer of the show, and I was like, because I wasn't officially with them, so I was like, can I go into these parties? Can I be on the bus? You know what I mean? Like, I was just like riding with them.
Please. Well, okay. This is a question I ask a lot of people that are traditional actors. Do you have a worst auditioning memory?
Yes, I have a couple.
Oh, I would love to hear one if you're comfortable sharing.
Yeah. They're all horrible. They're not. None of them are sexual harassment or anything. So like,
okay.
I can feel pretty comfortable. They're just bad in general. So the worst auditions. I'll tell you the 3 that come to mind off the top is one of the worst ones I had. I used to go in for commercials a lot. There's definitely ones where people are just eating and not paying attention to you while you're auditioning, which is just in a salad, in like a complex salad. Do you know what I mean? It's not even a teaser. Like
they're picking things out of the salad. Yeah.
Like there's different dressings. Like I didn't. What the fuck is this salad? I'm so hungry. I'm clearly broke. I'm in here auditioning for this Posturepedic mattress. I'm hungry. Please wait.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But I think one of my worst ones, commercial auditions are horrible.
They're I haven't done those for years because they're just like truly terrible.
They're truly terrible, and you really don't. Honestly, this is why I think improvisers and comedians do well in those things, is because they rarely tell you the whole amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
Commercials, so you get there and you have a broad idea, and then they're like, yeah, so then you're doing this, and this, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
And then if you want to change the dialogue, go ahead. You're like, yeah, I mean, because this sucks, so I will. But the other worst one, I definitely went in for an audition where where I was asleep, where I had to pretend to be asleep.
Okay.
That was my audition. Because I think it was for a print ad. And so they had me come in and literally this was an audition. There's a whole audition once I entered the room. Like, no, wait.
Just it's so stupid. Oh wow, that's a bold move right there.
And then they're like, fucking hour to get ready, an hour and a half to do the audition, an hour, 45 minutes of waiting. No. I do that. Thank you.
You just brought back all of the memories of how much I hated doing that shit. And I felt like every time I was on like a hidden prank show, I was like, there must be a camera somewhere. Yeah. There must be something hidden. There's no way that you guys are all cool with allowing adults to come and do this in front of you all day.
I had a commercial where they didn't tell me till I got there. But it was like, you're a couple, you're a married couple testing out a bed or something, some stupid fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And I had been told that it was like they're looking for quirky and weird and whatever. So I wore this jacket that I always wore when I was being quirky. Right? Okay. And I wear this jacket, and it's just me, and I'm like, this doesn't feel right. No one looks nearly as quirky.
Oh no.
And then they're like, yeah, and then so blah blah blah, you guys make out. and this, and after we've been paired up, and I'm paired up with this beautiful black girl. Like, she is just beautiful, and they go, "You guys have to make out," and I go, "We do." I was like, I just wasn't prepared to do that, and the look this woman gives me, like, motherfucker. I'm
You
sorry.
should be so honored.
It was definitely one of those, oh, I'm sorry, surprise, you gotta kiss me. Like,
Wow. Oh.
and by the way, that was more my mom than her, all of this. But it was definitely a look of like, yeah, you get to kiss me. And me, I just was like, I didn't know I was doing kissing today. Like, I don't
look, I wore my jacket. This is not my kissing jacket.
This is not my kissing jacket. Okay?
Oh man, I'm happy to hear that you've also had those experiences, that we're not alone in that. Okay, we're gonna take one.
Quick.
I'm cutting you off real quick. We're gonna take one last break. When we get back, we got Twitter questions for you. We'll be right back with more Not Too Deep.
Not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Did you know that there's a company that's mastered the science of sparkle? Meet Lightbox lab-grown diamonds. They hacked a billion-year process to grow stunning lab-grown diamond stones in about 2 weeks, and they're some of the highest quality stones that exist. They're always near colorless, always VS clarity, always a very good cut, and always $800 per carat. They come in 3 colors too: white, blush pink, and soft blue. After they're grown in the lab, they're transformed into gorgeous lab-grown diamond jewelry. It's beauty meets brain. Go to lightboxjewelry.com/Grace and use code GRACE for $25 off. That's lightboxjewelry.com/Grace. Use code GRACE for $25 off. Okay, Malcolm, before we get into these Twitter questions, I'm going to ask you the 2 questions I ask every single guest that is on this podcast. And the first question is, who, alive or dead, would you most want to throw cold spaghetti at?
I throw cold spaghetti at Hitler, but that seems obvious.
Yeah, we've gotten a couple Hitlers, yeah.
Yeah, it's boring. It's boring. Hitler's easy. I throw. I'm not going to do current. It's too easy to. I throw cold spaghetti at the guy who invented the material at the bottom of your bed that you bang your foot on. That hurt.
Yeah.
Whoever that guy who did that.
Okay.
That hurt and gets the most intense pain you've ever felt in your toe.
All right. Yeah, we've never had that answer.
Cold spaghetti straight to the fucking noggin.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
Why don't they make soft material for the beds, for the bed, so I don't fucking hit my fucking toe? That shit hurts for years.
I know.
That shit is the worst. I hate it.
It's a trauma that I think more people should be talking about. So I'm happy that you brought this to the forefront of our conversation today.
Yeah, I have a GoFundMe for people who have stubbed their toe.
I love it. Okay, the other question I ask every guest is to tell us your worst pants shitting story, or close call, but you can only use 3 words or 3 small phrases. So, for example, or a combination of words and phrases. For example, mine is college, jogging, front lawn.
Oh, okay. All right. It's a very specific game.
It's very fun.
I would go
there it is. There's the memory.
Yeah, post-college cast stadium for the Jets. That's not what Jets.
No, you can use small phrases. Oh, wow. Okay, no follow-up questions. We'll just have to all fill in the blanks there. Okay, here are some Twitter questions for you, Malcolm. Someone wants to know, what is the dumbest thing you ever wrote about?
The dumbest thing I ever wrote about?
Yeah.
The dumbest thing I ever wrote about. I used to write these stories when I was a kid in first grade, and they were all just variations of classic stories.
Okay.
That's how I started as a writer. Is like I think is like it would be like the story of the three penguins and and a bear, and then the teacher was like, "You might want to switch it up a bit." Uh,
I like the idea of you as a kid saw these classic stories and you're like, yeah, these are great, but I think I can make these better.
I think I
Than
could,
what
and that young man grew up to be a Hollywood executive.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, someone wants to know, what's your favorite memory from working on Timeless?
Um, my favorite memory from working on Timeless was that's very hard. I mean, every scene I had with Patterson Joseph,
Mm-hmm.
I think particularly look, the memory's going to change every day, so it's like hard.
Sure.
But one of the things that strikes me in this moment is the very first time I got to rehearse with Patterson Joseph,
Cool.
who played Mason, who plays essentially my mentor and the mastermind behind the whole time travel program. And me and him just had a similar way. He comes from theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just had a similar way of approaching the material. And so we very
Cool.
much approached it like it was Shakespeare. And so we would go into each other's trailers before the scenes and just go back and forth and play with different things. And because, it's a TV show, so you're hitting, for the sake of new audience members, you're hitting the same beats a lot of
Yeah.
time with certain plot points. And so for us, it was very important to do because it just added nuances to things that might have seemed similar or that the audience might have been familiar with. And we just really wanted to make that dynamic rich between us, And we also hadn't seen that, it was few and far between. I've really seen the sort of two Black men geniuses caring for each other in this environment and really having these one-on-ones while still being part of this other broader story. So it was
that must have been really special.
it was incredibly special for me. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Just to be able to be in that space and to go toe to toe with Patterson, who's one of the best actors ever of our time, of any period. He wrote his own piece. I can't say enough good things about
That's awesome. That's really cool. And it's also really cool to hear how much you guys cared about the work, and also must have been such a fun thing to vibe off of each other's like theater approach to it, because I'm sure that's a little rare to find that someone approaches it from the same sort of like theatrical brain that you do.
Yeah,
That's cool.
my favorite note that he got from a director one time, because there's an episode where he finally time travels with us, and he had this whole take where he pukes, whatever, and and the director goes, so that was a little theatrical, and then Patterson goes, no, it was very theatrical.
Oh, I love that. That's very sweet.
Very
Okay, someone wants to know, would you rather time travel 1,000 years in the future
Mhm.
or visit the closest civilization on another planet?
That's a good question. 1,000 years in the future, closest civilization
Hmm.
on another planet. I think I'd go with the other planet thing, right?
Okay.
Because I feel like 1,000 years in the future is cool, but it's just going to be a variation of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just going to be a bigger or smaller cell phone.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I think I'm going for the whole other planet thing, right? Like the environment's
Cool.
because it's not even just the environment's going to be different, the species are going to be different, the climate, all of that. So amazing terrain,
Yeah.
planet.
I'm with you that I feel like there's an opportunity to go to a civilization that's a little bit less fucked than our current situation.
Yes.
Okay, last question before we wrap up. Someone wants to know, what's the weirdest thing someone has said or done on a set that you've worked on? Were there a lot of like goofs and spoofs behind the scenes on Timeless? I know that's like the go-to question for everything.
People always want to know if there's like pranks.
Pranks, I know. Isn't that crazy that it's like you're all professionals trying to make this masterpiece come together from like so many moving parts, and everyone's just like, but did anyone like put each other's stuff in a toilet or something?
Yeah. I think George Clooney set a bad precedent for people believing that pranks are always happening, and they're never happening because everyone's just tired. Like, everyone's
trying to do their job.
Everyone's just trying to do their job and go home. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well then, okay, let me switch this up. Let me ask you now to come full circle. Is there a piece of advice that you would give to a young actor entering into Hollywood or wanting to enter into the creative world? Something that maybe you've learned that you would tell your younger self?
Yeah. So whenever I give advice, I try and be very, very practical, right? Because people need to know what they can do.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, I used to have this website where it was literally it was just a page of the fucking 7 things that you initially needed to know as an actor. And it was just like, in New York, you get a color headshot. In LA, you get a black and white headshot. Theater training, if you go to school, is probably better than just taking classes. You'll be more respected. Theater training. In LA, when you take acting classes, a lot of time you're doing scene work from movies and TV shows, which is a very different thing than doing scene work from plays because you're playing a whole character for like an hour or 2 hours at a time. It's very different. You want to do voice and speech, no matter where you're from. I'm from Brooklyn, and so I had a very different way of talking before I took voice and speech. So you should definitely do that without actually losing who you are. Don't worry, you don't have to lose who you are just because you know standard American English. It also will give you the tools to understand how to use your voice, which is very helpful.
I've never heard that piece of information. That's really interesting. The fact that, when you change your dialect or your the way you speak, you could feel like you lose a sense of yourself. That's so interesting.
Yeah, especially for people, I'm going to say, I can't speak for everybody, people of color, people like me who are from Brooklyn. You know, when I got to theater school, it's all white. It was all white and people with money and people who had been going to theater school since they were like 8 and 5.
Sure.
You know, people who were the children of people who were running television and TV. And so they didn't look like me and they didn't talk like me. And so I think it's a thing where people are like, okay, so do I have to sound white or do I have to not be able to be from Brooklyn and all of that? And for me, it was about knowing the words to use my tools. So it's like, I still talk the way I talk, especially if I'm around my brother and my mother. But I also know what I'm doing. I know about the diphthongs I'm using. I know when I want to aspirate. I know that I'm letting my tongue be lazy. Like, I'm aware. And so it gives me the tools to use what I need to use when I want to be a character actor, which is a lot of what I do. I play a lot of different types of characters from different types of places. And I'm able to do that because, one, my background, I actually have a background in high school from science and math. But I also studied, Edith Skinner's standard American English and had, voice and speech. So,
Cool.
And just, you know what, and also surround yourself by smart, motivated people, and inevitably you'll wind up helping each other. So it's not about like meeting a famous person who will give you a job. It's about being around people who know how to create for themselves.
Totally. I think that's all super sound advice. Before we wrap everything up completely, usually when we do the podcast in person, we have a personalized fortune cookie as a gift from us to our guests for making time for us. But now that we're doing this remotely, we have a digital fortune cookie for you that I believe Melissa emailed to you.
She did.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, you're welcome to open it and read aloud your fortune.
All right. Let's see what it says here. Today's forecast predicts a 30% chance of Steve Zaragoza in bed.
In bed. I mean, if that, that anywhere right now, Steve Zaragoza is currently in bed.
There's a fair enough chance he might be in bed.
Malcolm, this was really wonderful. Thank you for talking with us today. And before we go completely, where can people find everything that you're up to online if they don't already know?
I'm on YouTube. You can check my YouTube. I would assume it's Malcolm Barrett. I don't really know. And Instagram, I'm Verbal Be Rapping, verified, and Twitter, I'm Malcolm Barrett. And then you can check my band, Verbal and Icarus. Our newest album, Funhouse, is out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the theme song from the show, from Going Live with Malcolm is actually a song we wrote together called Big Sur.
Awesome.
So you can find me there. And ammunitiontheater.com. Ammunition.
Sweet. Well, thank you again. This was very fun and also very educational. So, guys, go check out everything that Malcolm is up to. And we'll see you guys next time on another episode of Not Too Deep. Goodbye.
Too deep, too deep, too deep, not too deep with Grace Helbig.
Not Too Deep is a production of Grace Helbig Incorporated, producer Melissa D. Montz, edited by Shireen Lani Yunus, post-production sound by Chris Henry, and an extra special thanks to Flula for the theme music.